Okay, good evening. We're ready to get started. Maseches Shabbos, Daf Kuf Lamed Aleph. The first sugya we're going to be speaking about tonight is a sugya that has to do with mavui and whether or not you can carry in a mavui and under what circumstances. And that'll take us to the top third of Daf Kuf Lamed Aleph. And the rest of the Gemara is going to be speaking about a selection of core mitzvos, ones that we're very familiar with, and the beautiful depth to each of those mitzvos from a halachic frame. So let's get started. We're about 12 lines from the bottom of the page on Kuf Lamed Amud Beis at the word Itmar. Itmar, Amar Rabbi Zera, Amar Rab. Rabbi Zera, second generation Amora, it said in the name of his Rebbe, Mavui shelo nishtatfu bo, if there is a mavui in which there was no shitufe muvos, it was not made with an eruv. So the halacha is, ein metaltalin bo ela b'dalad amos. One would only be allowed to carry dalad amos. Amar Abaye, Hamilsa Amar Reb Zera lo pirsha. What this line that Reb Zera said was really not explained well. Ad de'asa Rabbi bar Avuha upirsha, until Rabbi bar Avuha came along and actually explained what he meant more clearly. And here's what happened. Amar Rav Nachman Amar Rabbi bar Avuha Amar Rav Mavui shelo nishtatfu bo. If there was a mavui in which there was no eruve chatzeros, and there was no shitufe muvos for the mavui itself, so then here's a split within that world. Irvu chatzeros im batim. If I drew this so that we'd have a little bit of clarity. It's a little bit far away, but you know how the mavui world is built, is that there's a mavui in the middle, and they're connected to the chatzers, and then the outermost ring of the ches is going to be the batim, and this is hopefully something that we can kind of use a little bit. We're discussing the halachos of carrying dalad amos in the mavui, and the Gemara is presenting that, well, it depends. Was there a ruve chatzeros? What does that have to do with anything? Who cares if there's a ruve chatzeros over here in order to carry here? What does one thing have to do with the other? That's what the Gemara says is the distinction. That was where Reb Zera in the name of Rab was unclear. So let's learn now how to understand this Gemara from Rabbi bar Avua. Here's what he says. Irvu chatzeros in batim, if there was a ruve chatzeros, such that I could then leave my house into a chatzer, carrying something, then if that's true, if we bind together with a ruve chatzeros, the batim and the chatzer, then ein metaltalin bo ela b'dalad amos. Then in the mavui, you can only carry dalad amos. Okay, we'll get to the clarity point in a second. Lo irvu chatzeros im batim. If there was no ruve chatzeros, if you're not allowed to carry from your house into the chatzer and vice versa, then in the mavui, mutter letaltel bekula. So Rabbi Chanina, the next line, he wants to get a little bit of clarity. Why is this happening? Why are we making this distinction that if there's a ruve chatzeros, then you're not allowed to carry dalad amos? And if there's no ruve chatzeros, then you are allowed to carry dalad amos inside the mavui. The ruve chatzeros are not in the same place as the mavui. So why would we make this strange backwards distinction? So answers the Gemara, 4 lines from the bottom, Kuf Lamed Amud Beis. Amar le Reb Chanina Choza le Rabba, and he said, I don't understand something. Why is it that if there was a ruve chatzeros, so then we're more makbid in the mavui that you can only carry dalad amos? And he answers, the nitku chatzeros v'nasu batim, because when you make the ruve chatzeros, it kind of bridges together the chatzer and the batim. They're one whole unit. They're now disconnected from the mavui, and therefore there's more rigid rules in the mavui. Fine. And in fact, the Rav L'Taime, this is Rav L'Shitaso. What does he hold? The Amar Rav says, Ein ha-mavui nitar belechi v'koreh. One is not allowed to have a mavui be carried in with unless there's a lechi and a koreh. Ad sheyehu batim v'chatzeros psuchin l'socho. Only if the batim and the chatzer are pasuach to the mavui, that's when you're allowed to have a heter in the mavui. But if you don't have batim and chatzeros leading into the mavui, then you're not allowed to carry. So now we understand, we understand what Reb Zera was saying, is that because there was a link with a ruve chatzeros between the batim and the chatzer, so therefore those two bonded together, and now there's no access from those two places into the mavui. Now we can only carry dalad amos. But v'hacha batim ika chatzeros leka. And here we have houses, but we have no chatzer anymore because the chatzer is now part of the house. However, says Rav Chanina Choza to Rabba, second line, Daf Kuf Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph, ki lo irvunami, even if there was no eruve chatzeros, we did not bind together the chatzer and the batim, even in that case, lechzinu lahani batim kiman destimu damo. We should make it as though they're really disconnected from the mavui. V'chatzeros ika, and there are chatzeros, granted, but uvatim leika, but there are no houses. In other words, if you're saying that it's all about whether or not the eruv chatzeros are connected to the mavui, but the houses are still disconnected from the mavui, we should still say that it's only the dalet amos and the mavui. Why, even when there's no eruv chatzeros, do we say that it's mutter to carry in that mavui? So says the Gemara, because efshar demavatle le reshusa dekulhu gabechad, because it's theoretically possible that all of the people who own a chatzer will be mavatel their own rishus, so that one person ki'ilu owns all of it, so that they can carry it's all one chatzer. If we all live in this space of the chatzer, in this middle area of chatzer, if there are 10 homes here who own yards, you can imagine the backyards of the Chesterfields. You could basically walk straight through them. So let's say that everybody said, I'm going to be mafkir my yard, everyone's going to be mafkir their yard to one family. Then we could walk through the entire chatzer. So says the Gemara, because we can do that theoretically, therefore that chatzer is now perfectly separated from the mavui, and therefore you're allowed to carry in the mavui, no problem. So that's the Gemara's answer, is that we could be mafkir the rishus. So says the Gemara, but that doesn't work with Rav, because sof bayis ika batim leika. If everyone is mafkir the rishus, then it's as if there's only one house. But if you look at the very top word of this page, it says batim v'chatzeros. There have to be houses in the plural. Take a look at the first Rashi on the page. Dibur hamaschil batim v'chatzeros. Shnei batim psuchim l'shtei chatzeros. 2 houses, which are open to 2 chatzeros. Shtayim l'kol chatzer. 2 houses for each chatzer. Ve'ashtei chatzeros psuchos l'mavui. So unless you have a construct where you have multiple houses dumping into a chatzer, which also dumps into the mavui, so batim to chatzer, if you don't have those open doorways, whole conversation's off. So that's what the Gemara says, that was Rav Shita. All of this only applies if you have multiple homes and multiple chatzeros. But if you're mafkir your chatzer, then you've broken Rav's rules, and the rules don't apply. So then the Gemara says, you're right. How do we fit within Rav still? So answers the Gemara. Says the Gemara, Efshar dimitzafra ve'ad palga diyoma legabechad. Maybe halfway from morning until chatzos, we'll pick the left side. Everyone it's gonna be the Karesh household. And then for the second half of the afternoon, it's going to be the Gottlieb household. So we're splitting the day in half by me, half by you. That's 2 houses. Maybe that checks off all of the boxes of Rav, like we just saw in that top Rashi. So says the Gemara, sof, even though that's true, you kind of created an environment of 2 houses, but it's not concurrent. It's one after the other. Whenever everyone was mafkir their homes so that I would be ki'ilu the owner, fine. But that was not concurrent with when they split to a new owner in the second half of the day. And therefore, we never had 2 owners at once. And that's really what Rav said. So therefore, the Gemara has to pivot yet again. Elo, Omar Ravashi, mi goram lechatzeros sheyi asru. What is it that causes the problem for the chatzer? It's the batim. It's the houses. Vileka, and those houses are not connected to the mavui, and therefore we are going to be matir carrying throughout the mavui from beginning to end, like we said in yesterday's shir. Beginning a new sugya here, Amar Rav Chia bar Abba, Amar Rav Yochanan. Remember, we learned a very unique shita of Rabbi Eliezer in our Mishnah, that one is allowed to carry a knife on Shabbos in a way that's otherwise usher for the sake of a bris. And then Rabbi Eliezer took it a whole new level and said that if you forgot to make the knife, you can cut down a tree and burn the tree to make it embers, to make it coals, in order to create and to forge a knife, which is remarkable because not one stage removed, it's many stages removed. So says the Gemara, I don't want you to get all nervous. Lo lekol amar Rabbi Eliezer machshiri mitzvah dochenas Shabbos. It's not for every single mitzvah that Rabbi Eliezer holds that you're allowed to violate isurim in preparation for that mitzvah. It's not always true. Sheharei, because in regards to 2 areas of halacha, shtei halechem chovas hayom hein. We know that the 2 chalas that were brought on Shavuos are a chovas hayom. They can only be brought on that day of Shavuos. That's when their mitzvah is. London, Rabbi Eliezer, elam gzera shava. It wasn't intuitive to him to say that, mitzvah, therefore I can break every law under the sun to get the mitzvah, that I'm going to do kotzer, and I'm going to do tochein, and I'm going to do lush. The whole Sidur de Pas I'm going to violate because it's Shtei Alechem. No, It's not natural that he would assume that. He only came about that because there's a Gzera Shava. Titania, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, how do we know that when it comes to the two breads, the Shtei Alechem that were brought on Shavuos, how do we know that they're Dochanes HaShabbos? That there we are allowed to do preparatory Isurim on Yontif for the sake of these Shtei Alechem, because Ne'emra Haba'a Omer, V'Ne'emra Haba'a V'Shtei Alechem, because it says by the word Omer, by the Sugya of Omer, of the Korban Omer Haba'a, and it also says that same word by Shtei Alechem, and we make a Gzera Shava. What is the Gzera Shava? Says the Gemara, Ma Haba'a Ha'amura Be'Omer Machshirin. Just like by the Korban Omer, we say that one is allowed to be preparatory in that regard to prepare for Shabbos, to prepare for that Korban. So too, Af Hava Hamura B'Shtei Alechem Machshirin Dochanes HaShabbos. So we have a Gzera Shava. So you might have thought that Rabbi Eliezer, who in our Mishnah was wildly lenient, not only for the Izel, for the knife, but even to build the knife on Shabbos, which violates a number of Isurim, you might have thought that he just is across the board flagrant about doing Isurim for the sake of mitzvos, mutter b'mutter. And we saw yesterday that there were cities that followed Rabbi Eliezer with no consequence. It says the Gemara, don't misunderstand. Rabbi Eliezer is not being flagrant. It's not just like this, you can do whatever you want, because we see here that the matir for Shtei Alechem was a Gzera Shava. Now, before we move on here, there's various levels of Gzera Shava. The highest level, the best level of Gzera Shava is when each word of the Gzera Shava is what's referred to in halacha as mufne. Each word is fully available for the Gzera Shava. Under those circumstances, we don't care if you have a distinction between the two camps. In this case, Omer and Shtei Alechem. There's going to be differences in halacha between those two camps. But if the Gzera Shava is mufne mishnei tzaddim, if both words are totally available for the Gzera Shava, you can't argue that Gzera Shava. However, one level lower of a Gzera Shava is when only one of the words is fully available, but the other one is not fully available. In that case, you are allowed to find distinctions and argue against the Gzera Shava. What kind of Gzera Shava is this? So let's see. It says the Gemara, just about halfway down, mufne. It must be that both, mufne in the plural, both words of hava, one by Omer and one by Shtei Alechem, both are available. Namely, this is the highest level of a Gzera Shava. How do we know? Because the ilo mufne, if not for the fact that both of the words hava were fully available for this Gzera Shava, then I would have instantly made a distinction and said, Ika lemifrach, I could have said that male Omer, shekeni matza katzur kotzer, that by the Korban Omer, when I went to go collect the grain, if I found it already cut, if it was katzur, I have to go back and be kotzer. I have to cut new material. I have to cut new grains. There it has to basically be cut lishma for the sake of that mitzvah. Masha'en came tomar b'shtei alechem she matza katzur eno kotzer. Big distinction between these two things, which is that there's a din lishma by the ksira in regards to Omer, but not by the Shtei Alechem. So it must be that it's mufne mishnei tzdadim, because otherwise we would have asked this question, and we don't. Says the Gemara, lo'eh, you're correct. Afnuye mufne, you're right. Both words, hava by Omer and hava by Shtei Alechem, are available for the sake of Gzera Shava Michti. And in fact, let's analyze more. Ksiv, the pasuk says, v'havesem es Omer reshis ksirchem ala kohen. But it also says, miyom haviachem lamali. Why do I need hava so many times? Answers the Gemara, v'haraya shma mina le'afnuye. We therefore see that all of these extra languages of hava free up the words hava that we have by Omer and by Shtei Alechem to enable this to be a Gzera Shava, which is mufne mishnei tzdadim, a Gzera Shava where both words are fully available for a Gzera Shava, so that we can't even ask a kasha on the distinctions between these two worlds. I says the Gemara, you've answered me by Omer. You've showed me psukim by Omer to indicate to me that that side is mufna, that part of the Gzera Shava is fully available. However, v'akati mufna mitzad echad, what about the other side? Maybe we should say that the word hava by Shtei Alechem is not mufna. Maybe this is only a Gzera Shava that's mufna mitzad echad. And if that's true, v'shamina le'Rabbi Eliezer da'amar mufna mitzad echad le'meidin u'meshivin. And Rabbi Eliezer himself holds that when it comes to a Gzera Shava that's mufna mitzad echad, when it comes to that world, we say le'meidin u'meshivin, you can even ask a kasha on it. That's a big problem. Says the Gemara, no, taviu. The pasuk says that in regards to this mitzvah, we have that it says that by the Shnei Alechem that it has the words taviu, which is ribuyahu. It's an extra word, and therefore this is a gzeira shava that is mufna mishnei tzadim. And going back to our starting point here, that Rabbi Eliezer does not flagrantly say that you can violate every isser for the sake of a mitzvah, because the only reason by Shnei Alechem that he allowed for one to be machshir on Shabbos was because on Yontif was because of the fact that he had a gzeira shava that was mufna mishnei tzadim. So, okay, good. Now, we know now from this Gemara that the Gzeira Shava indicated that Rabbi Eliezer needed a Marim Makom to be Machshir the Shtei Alechem. But what does he exclude? What other mitzvahs does he exclude from this preparatory phase of being Machshir? So let's see. The Mu'utei Mai, 2/3 of the way down. Kuf Lamed Aleph, Amud Aleph. What does he leave out? Maybe you could argue that he would say by lulav that you totally forgot your lulav. There's no one in town to borrow from, and you want to cut one down on Shabbos. That can't be. There we have from the horse's mouth. Rabbi Eliezer himself says that a lulav can be cut down on Yontiv if you need it. Maybe something else. Maybe in order to cut down schach for a sukkah. That can't be either. That can't be the case where Rabbi Eliezer says we're not allowed to be machshir, we can't prepare on Yontif. Why? Because Rabbi Eliezer, again from Rabbi Eliezer himself, the sukkah can't be because we have a brisa that says that you're perfectly allowed to and obligated to cut that down. So again, still looking for a case where Rabbi Eliezer does not allow for preparation. What is that case going to be? The Ella, let's see, lemute matzah. Maybe by the mitzvah of matzah, totally forgot to buy matzah. We need to get a kazayis for everyone to be yotzei that night. Maybe I'm not allowed to make matzah, to bake it, whatever needs to be done on Yontif. Says Gemara, that can't be either. Tanya, we see there that Rabbi Eliezer is matir machshir, and we're allowed to prepare matzah too. Matzah v'chol machshir yadoknas Shabbos Rabbi Eliezer. Again, same exact argument that we see that Rabbi Eliezer himself allows for preparation of matzah in a scenario where you otherwise forgot to prepare. Let's try again. Then lumute shofar. Let's say that you don't have a shofar. The only way to get one is to cut a shofar off of an animal and drill it out and make it usable. A lot of malachos to be done. So maybe we'd say, no, we would just pass. We know that we don't blow Rosh Hashanah now on Shabbos out of a relatively lightweight zera that maybe he'll carry the Rosh Hashanah Dal Ramos, and we pass up on a mitzvah d'oraisa of shofar. Yet he's going to allow cutting it off of an animal. Let's see what he says here. Lamute shofar. There too, we allow isurei d'oraisa to prepare for shofar. Tanya, the Brisa writes, shofar b'chol machshirav. A shofar and all of its preparations, dochenes Shabbos Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer in all of these cases is matir, all the machshir, all the preparations to bring us to that mitzvah on that day. So what is it? What is the case scenario where Rabbi Eliezer does not allow for preparation? Because until now, all we've seen is mutter b'mutter b'mutter, bris milah, and then all the cases we just saw here, shtei alechem, by the omer, by Pesach, by Sukkah, by Lulav, by Mati, everything. He's matir everything. What's the one case where Rabbi Eliezer doesn't allow preparation? Answers the Gemara 5-6 lines from the bottom. Let's see what Rav Ada bar Abba has to say. Rav Ada bar Abba. L'meute tzitzis l'talisum zuzah l'pischo. Mitzvos of a different nature. By all the mitzvos that we just learned, by Tesvav you have to have matzah. By Tesvav you have to have a Lulav. By Rosh Hashanah you have to have a shofar. So many cases. What about a mitzvah like tzitzis? What about hanging a mezuzah? So there, would Rabbi Eliezer say that you can shech the cow to get parchment and write the whole parsha on Shabbos? How far does he go? So Rabbi Barabba says, this is our example. Tanya nami hachi, a brisa to support 4 lines from the bottom. The shavim she'in tziyetz taliso, the as mezuzah lepischo shehu chayiv. What does the brisa say? You have no tzitzis on Shabbos, you're wearing a 4-cornered garment. You're not allowed to put on tzitzis. Why not? Because even Rabbi Eliezer would say that by tzitzis, it's not allowed. It's not a strictly timed mitzvah. That's not me talking, says the Gemara. My taima. What's the reason by talis and mezuzah why Rabbi Eliezer would not allow for the preparatory aspects of the mitzvah to be done on Shabbos? We allow it by bris milah, by lulav, by sukkah, by everything else. These are different. Amar Rav Yosef, because there's no pasuk that says you have to wear tzitzis on Shabbos. You have to wear tzitzis all the time. So therefore, Rabbi Eliezer says you cannot be mechen on Shabbos. You cannot violate Yisurim. Let's say you have all of the tzitzis in a bag, but they're not tied on. So would Rabbi Eliezer say, are you allowed to tie all the strings on the tzitzis? Isur daraisa. Even Rabbi Eliezer, who's otherwise lenient to violate other Yisurim by other mitzvahs, not here. And Rabbi Yosef's perush is lefi she'ein kabul lemzman. Amar le Abaye pushes back on Rabbi Yosef and says, Adir Rabbah, I don't agree with you at all. That's a space where we would say you are chayiv to put on the tzitzis. Why? Because there's no specific time frame in the Torah to put on tzitzis or to put up a mezuzah. Top of Kuf Lamed Aleph on the base says the Gemara, Kol shaita v'shaitas manehu. It's always time to put on tzitzis. You're going to skip Shabbos? No. You should be able to prepare then too. This Rashi that I'm about to show you, this is a week's worth of lamdus. Take a look at this Rashi. Rashi says something crazy. The Chevan, top Rashi, Dibur Masav Kol shaita Zmanehu. Rashi says, "V'kevan sheyesh lo talis b'chol yom shemash hebelot tzitzis." If you have a four-cornered talis that doesn't have strings on it, and you're mash hebelot tzitzis, you leave it without strings. Over be'aseh, you violate an aseh. Ve'afilu munachas bekufsa, even if you're not wearing it. Unbelievable. You have a four-cornered garment that you bought from Kesher Stam. It's sitting in the bag and you never tied strings on it. Rashi says, bittul aseh every day. It's a crazy idea. That means that every garment that we have that's daled kanfos, when we own them, we're chayav immediately to put strings on them. Otherwise, a bittul aseh. You can see here that there's a little insignia by the word v'afilu, Rabbi Kiva Eger. This is a whole discussion in the Rishonim and in the Poskim and in the Achronim about whether or not you're allowed to own a four-cornered garment that's not mitzuyetes, that doesn't yet have the strings on. Either way, Abaye pushes back on Rabbi Yosef and says tzitzis. Rabbi Yosef said tzitzis is not a zman kabua, therefore Rabbi Eliezer would not allow the preparatory aspect. Comes along Abaye and says, what are you talking about? If I don't put on my tzitzis right now, I'm mevatel a mitzvah saseh. So then why would you say that Rabbi Eliezer would say that you're not allowed to do these averos on Shabbos? Answers the Gemara, top line, Kuf Lamed Aleph from the Beis, Ela Omar, Reb Nachman, Omar, Reb Yitzchak, B'Tem, Reb Huna, B'Rei, De Rav Yoshua, Hoil, Uviyado Lehafkiran. Because when it comes to a garment, you're able to be mafkir that garment. Therefore, there's no immediate need to violate the Isser of kosher to tie the knots on the tzitzis, and therefore Rabbi Eliezer does not allow for the preparation of tzitzis on Shabbos. Says the Gemara, Amar Mar, we learned on the previous Amud in regards to a lulav. We learned that lulav v'chol machshirav dochen es haShabbos to Rabbi Elazar. That when it comes to a lulav, you're allowed to clip off a lulav from a palm tree. Minale l'Rabbi Eliezer ha. Where does he get this from? How does Rabbi Eliezer know that you are allowed to do this? Because I shouldn't say because. Let's see. Ime omer vishtei halechem. If you want to say that we're making a jump, a tzushtel from the world of Omer and Shtei Halechem, from which we made a Gzeira Shava, and we're going to extrapolate from there and say Lulav is no different, can't be. Because the Gzeira Shava was only between Omer and Shtei Halechem, but Lulav is different. How? Because Shekein Tzorach Gavoa. Ime Omer Shtei Halechem, Shekein Tzorach Gavoa. Those two things are for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but a Lulav is a mitzvah that we do. It's not a korban, it's not a hakrava. Those are for us. So therefore, you can't learn it from there. So Ella, Amar Kra, must be that he learns it from a pasuk. What pasuk does Rabbi Eliezer learn from that you're allowed to cut off a lulav an yontif? The pasuk says, Bayom. The pasuk says, Ulkachtam lachem bayom harishon, drush on the Gemara. Bayom afilu b'Shabbos. That even on Shabbos, you are allowed to cut off a lulav in order to fulfill the mitzvah. Afal that today, we don't even take a lulav on Shabbos. Right? So that's unique today, but that's only because of today. What does the word bayom teach us? If you think that the word yom is meant to teach me tiltul, that it's mutter to move the lulav, that's ridiculous. Itrich krala mishrei tiltul. Tiltul is an isur derabanan. I don't need a pasuk bayom to teach me that I could carry something. Of course not. So therefore, what does the word bayom mean? Answers the Gemara, the word bayom must mean ela l'machshira. So Rabbi Eliezer says it means that by definition, the fact that it says ulkachtam lachem b'yom harishon v'haraya, that I'm allowed to cut a lulav down even on Shabbos, should I need to fulfill that mitzvah. Says the Gemara, the Rabbanan, the rabbis who argue against Rabbi Eliezer, what do they do with the word bayom? Answers the Gemara, Hahumi Baile, they use that word bayom not to teach me that machshira var mutter, that you are allowed to cut it down on Shabbos, but rather that it's by Hahumi Baile bayom v'lo balayla, to teach us that it's a time-bound commandment. That the mitzvah of lulav and esrog is only during daylight hours. It's pashkia, you forgot to bench on a lulav and esrog, you're done. Avar zmano batla korbano. So that's where the Rabbanan say the word bayom is used. That's why they don't have to learn that machshira is permissible by a lulav. Okay, but Rabbi Eliezer, if that's true that the Rabbanan use your word by Yom, which you used for Machshira, well then where do you learn from, Rabbi Eliezer, that the mitzvah of lulav is only by day and not by night? Rabbi Eliezer, b'yom v'lo b'layla minale. How do you know that it's only by day and not by night? Answers the Gemara, nafkale mi usmachtem lifnei Hashem Elokeichem shivas yamin. That the pasuk says in the Torah, let me just read it from you inside. The full pasuk is talking about Ulkachtem Lachem, and at the end of the pasuk it says Usmachtem Lifnei Hashem Elokeichem Shivas Yamim, a pasuk by Sukkos. So the pasuk says Shivas Yamim, Yamim V'lo Leilos. There, we learn it from there. Fine. So they have a Mari Makom for day and night. So then what do the Rabbanan do with that? The Rabbanan, what do you do with the pasuk of Usmachtem Shivas Yamim? Itzrich, we need both. Why do we need both Usmachtem and Ulkachtem Lachem the Yom Harishon? Why did the Rabbanan say we need both? Because Sal Kadai Techamina Neilav Shivas Yamim Sukkah. We might have thought that you could learn this out from Sukkah Malahalan, just like by Sukkah Yamim Ve'afilu Leilos. You might have thought that by Sukkahs you can fulfill the mitzvah of Sukkah both by day and by night. Afkan Yamim Ve'afilu Leilos. Havamina, that maybe we would have thought that just like by Sukkahs the mitzvah applies 24 hours a day. We can have a Suda at night. We have a Suda at night. Our first mitzvah, Doraisa and Sukkot, is right after we make sure it's dark out. Some poskim say even in the rain, we have to wait until Chatzos HaLayla to see if it's going to stop raining that first night. Pashut that there's a mitzvah to eat in the Sukkah on that night. So therefore, we needed both psukim to make sure that we don't make the jump from Sukkah to Lulav to assume that just like by Sukkah it's 7 days a week, including at night, so too by Lulav, Kamash Malan, that by Lulav, the mitzvah is only b'yom and not b'layla, masha'ein came b'sukkah, that the mitzvah is 24 hours a day. I have a lichtov rachmana b'lulav. If you're saying that we were afraid to learn from sukkah because we may have mislearned, then you should have taught it by lulav. Lichtov rachmana b'lulav and neso hanach v'nilfu minah. We could have extrapolated from lulav and then learned over to whatever we needed to for sukkah. Says we can't do that. Mishum deikal l'nifrach ma lulav shekein to and arba meaning. You can't really learn from one sugya to the next, from lulav to sukkah, or really from lulav to anything else, unless you have a full gzera shava, because there's something unique about a lulav, which is that it has arba minim. Next, 1/3 of the way down, kuf lamed aleph amud beis. Let's continue. Sukkah. We learned on the previous amud sukkah b'chol machshira dochenes haShabbos. You don't have schach. Says Dibur Rabbi Eliezer, you're allowed to cut down schach on Shabbos to make your sukkah kosher. Says the Gemara Minole Rabbi Eliezer ha. How does Rabbi Eliezer know that it's permissible to cut down schach on Shabbos? If you want to say that maybe we should learn from the Mari Makam on the previous page that Omer and Shtei Alechem are allowed, they have a Gzera Shavor there, we can jump it over to here by Sukkah. We can't. Shekain Tzorach Gavohu, because the Omer and Shtei Alechem are Tzorach Gavoh, but a Sukkah is not. And if you want to say Imi Lulav, if you want to say, oh, maybe by Lulav we proved with Mari Makomos, either the Rabbi Eliezer or the Rabbanim, whichever. Rabbi Eliezer held over there that was considered to be a great case for Machshir, and maybe here too. No. Imi Lulav shekain ton arba minin. There's something unique about Lulav too, so you can't do that either. So it says the Gemara, Ela Gomar Shivas Yamim Lulav. We learn from Shivas Yamim and Lulav. Malahala Machshir of Dochenes HaShabbos, Avkan Machshir of Dochenes HaShabbos. We learn Sukkah from these psukim of Shivas Yamim. So says the Gemara, hold on, V'lichtov Rachmana b'Sukkah. Maybe we should only have the pasuk speak about Sukkah, B'nesi Hanach, and then we can learn about other items, V'nigmor b'minei. We cannot do that. We can't learn them together at all, because Mishum deikal nifrach ma'alas Sukkah shekenu heges b'layla kiviyamim. Because Sukkah is a very unique din, which is not comparable to Lulav. And then, as mentioned, that a Sukkah is a 24/7 mitzvah, and that's not true by Lulav, which is only a daytime mitzvah. Next sugya, halfway down, just plowing through this brisa that we learned from the previous page. Matzah b'chol machshireh, you forgot to make your matzah. Dochenes haShabbos yivi Rabbi Eliezer. You know that the Rabbi Eliezer, how does he know that you can make matzah on Shabbos? When, let's say, the first night, the 15th of Nisan, falls out on Shabbos and you forgot to make matzah, nowhere to be found. Rabbi Eliezer says it's mutter. And we go through the same list we've been going through, and we keep adding one as we move along. Imi omer v'shtei alechem, you can't learn that out from the Gzera Shava that we learned on the previous page, because that's shekain tzorach gavoah. Those two things in the Gzera Shava of Omer and Shtei Alechem, that's a Tzorach Gavoah. That's for a Kodesh Baruch Hu, but a Sukkah is not. Mi Lulav, you can't learn from Lulav because that has something that's unique to it. Shekain Ton Arba Minim, because the Lulav has an Arba Minim, but that's not true by our case of Matzah. Imi Sukkah, you can't learn out from Sukkah either. Why not? Because Shekain Noheges Beleilos Kiviyamim. Because there we see that that's 24/7 mitzvah. Ella, how do we know that matzah can be made on Shabbos if you forgot? Ella Gamar Chamisha Asar Chamisha Shad, one of the most famous Gzeros Shava in the whole Torah referred to as the Gzer Shava of Tesvav Tesvav. A Gzer Shava that's quoted right and left. We will see this many times throughout Shas Yimir Tashem together. And that is the Gzer Shava that teaches us that a matzah can be made on Shabbos. Just like by Sukkot, we are allowed to violate the Isurim on Shabbos to cut down schach to have a kosher sukkah. So too by matzah, because of the Gzer Shava of Tesvav Tesvav. Maybe we should have written the din by matzah, and we would only have had to write it there and not this whole Gzer Shava. Says the Gemara, Mishum de'ikal nifrach. There's something unique about matzah. What was unique about matzah? This is not true of any of the mitzvahs that we just learned. Sukkah, women are pturos mitzvahs shezman grama. Lulav, women are exempt because of mitzvahs shezman grama. Everything, but it's not true by matzah. By matzah, women are obligated midoraisa as well, the night of, whatever the svar is halachically, doesn't make a difference. Shofar, 3/4 of the way down. This is the last two dots. I believe it's the last two dots we're going to learn tonight. We'll go right to the last line of the page here. It says the Gemara, Shofar, v'chol machshir of dochanas haShabbos iv Rabbi Eliezer. How does Rabbi Eliezer know that you can do all the preparations for shofar? Asks the Gemara, Mino leila Rabbi Eliezer ha. How does he know that you're allowed to do all the preparatory work to make a shofar on Shabbos? And again, today we don't blow shofar on Shabbos, so this is only before the Gzeira of Shemet Yavir Arba Amos B'Rshus HaRabbi. It says the Gemara, Imi Omer B'Shtei Alechem, we cannot learn out from the Gzeira Shava of Omer and Shtei Alechem Shekein Tzorach Gebo, because that's going to a Kodesh Baruch Hu. This is not going to a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Mi Lulav, you cannot learn it from Lulav, because what's unique about Lulav Shekein Ton Arba Minim? Because the other types of mitzvahs we're referring to don't have Arba Minim, and Lulav does. Imi Sukkah, there's something that's unique about Sukkah, and therefore you cannot extrapolate from the world of Sukkah to Shofar. What do we have over there? Sheken noheges beleilos kibiyomim, because there's a 24/7 mitzvah. Imi matzah, we just learned. There's something unique about matzah, which is not true by shofar. Sheken noheges benashim kibe'anashim, that women fulfill the mitzvah of matzah, but they don't have a din d'oraisa by shofar. It's a mitzvah shezman grama. Ella, how do we know that shofar, according to Rabbi Eliezer, can be prepared on Shabbos? Ella amar kra yom teruah yelachem beyom afilu b'Shabbos. The ulemai, and what does the pasuk mean? Beyom, what is it coming to be matir? There's a question. To blow a shofar on Shabbos in Tammuz, is that an issur d'oraisa? Why? It's like a kli. It's like playing guitar on Shabbos. It's like playing the horn on Shabbos. Not an issur d'oraisa. That's what the Gemara is going to say. Ulemai, what was the Torah coming to be matir with the word beyom? If what you're saying is that the reason why we need this pasuk is to be matir the tkiyos on Shabbos, we already learned about this. What does the pasuk mean when it says to exclude? It's not an issur d'oraisa, it's a chachma. We learned about this much earlier in the Maseches about taking bread off of the side of the oven. What about chatok deshis kechavercha? We learned many blot ago. So that we learned that the tkiyah is only derabanan. At the most, it's derabanan. So then, what does the pasuk biyom come to teach us? Ella, it must be last of the short lines. Kuf lamed aleph on the base, almost done for the day. Ella the machshir, and the pasuk must mean that on Shabbos we are allowed to prepare. Should we have forgotten to prepare the shofar? Machshir and our mutter derabanan. What do you do with the word biyom? I know that Rabbi Eliezer uses it to teach me that I can do the machshir and that I can prepare the shofar on Shabbos. The Rabbanan, what do you do with it? Says the Gemara, Rabbanan, ahumi baile biyom v'lo b'layla, to teach me that the mitzvah of shofar is time bound, that it only applies during daylight hours and not at night. Rabbi Eliezer, biyom v'lo b'layla minale. Okay, back to Rabbi Eliezer, it's ping pong. If you're going to say, if the Rabbanan say that we need that pasuk of biyom to teach me that it's time bound, then what does Rabbi Eliezer do? Where does he learn that from? Answers the Gemara, we learn out from the shofar that's blown by Yom Kippur, and we extrapolate from there too, that it has to be done during the day. Why don't we just teach the din only by shofar and not elsewhere? We cannot learn it out from Tkiyah shofar de Rosh Hashanah. Leika lemigmar. What is unique about the shofar on Rosh Hashanah? If you are looking for a mindset of what to think about during shofar, let this line be seared into your memory, because it is a very, very powerful idea. There are hundreds of ideas mentioned in the postscript about what people should think about during shofar, but this one's listed in the Gemara explicitly. Mitzkiyas shofar de Rosh Hashanah leika lemigmar. What is unique? We cannot extrapolate from there. Because what's unique about that? Shekain, the shofar has the power to be machneses zichronos shel Yisrael avian shabashamayim. The power of the shofar is it brings the zichronos, it brings up the things that we want Hashem to remember straight up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As well, 4 lines from the bottom, shofar Yom Kippurim lekel nigmar. We also can't learn from there, from Yom Kippurim, because to Amar Mar, we have a din by Yom Kippur as follows. Tiku Bezdin shofar. When the Bezdin would blow shofar, nifteru avadim levatei, and by the Shemitah cycle, it would, by the Yovel cycle, it would end Shemitah. It would basically free all of the avadim to go home. V'sados chozros sabalein, and all the fields would go back to their owners. So that's why the Rabbanan, that's why Rabbi Eliezer held of his shita that the word bayom is what taught him to be matir by the shofar. So we'll stop here for tonight. And in short, the only scenario in which we've seen that Rabbi Eliezer does not allow for preparation is by tzitzis and by mezuzah. Otherwise, Rabbi Eliezer so far seems to be pretty expensive. Wishing you all a beautiful night. Picking up tomorrow night with a lot and a half, Kuf Lamed Beis Mir Hashem, and Kuf Lamed Gimel Amanal. Good night.